So let's look at the letter E of the legacy pathway letter model of Y, A, B, C, D, E, F. So the letter E. Now, this is about engage and enfold, the engagement with others who are going to present themselves recipients, supporters, contributors, maybe family, friends, and to enfold what it is that you're doing so that the connections become real and extend beyond where you are now, which could move out into the community as a whole, even farther regionally, nationally, internationally for some of you. And that's great. So this engage and enfold is a way in which to think about really bringing relationships, connections to the foreground. Because one of the things we have to remember is legacy is not lived alone. Yes, you're on a unique journey, but you're also in adventures together with others. And that is a great exchange that takes place. It's so living if you allow it to happen. Because what happens is that every story, every contribution, every action contributes way beyond what you think it does. Because there's a ripple effect that's there. Now, with this engage and enfold, one of the things for yourself personally to realize is that it's an invitation for others to come in and support you in what you're shaping, the shaping of this legacy life. And they can do the same, and that's what that exchange is about. So one of the great insights that were shared with me is that through engagement and this enfolding, your legacy, in a sense, its meaning multiplies. Isn't that a great way to look at it? Your interactions with others multiplies the actions and outcomes. I'll go with that. I don't know about you. So have you found that to be the case? Let us know in the comments below so we can learn together. Engage means to include, invest, involve others in what you're doing and let the energy flow because of that. And what you're doing is you're creating place and space for those interactions to take place. And that is a way in which to generate even more that may not have been there if you were just doing it by yourself. And one of the ways in which you do that is through storytelling and story sharing. And I'm going to be shooting some videos about that in particular because there's something to be said for understanding what is storytelling and what is story sharing. Well, they complement each other. They are there for different reasons. And I think that the underpinning here with engage is to turn my work, in other words, your work, into our work. I'm always inviting others in and finding creative ways to have that happen so that it becomes our work. The more, for me, sharing and telling the stories about legacy as far and wide as I can is going to be of great value in being for the world with the planet from the whole. When you then go into the enfold, what you're doing is in that welcoming of the persons that you're interacting with, you're going to do it with care so that the person feels as though, yeah, I belong here and I can contribute here because I have that sense of caring. In many ways, it brings softness to the word engagement. That's why I tend not to use like a word like participate. I use engage. It's just a little softer. And then with the enfolding and bringing persons in, there's softness associated with that. And I enjoy that. Again, let me know if softness is a word you would associate with legacy. Because what we're doing is we're sharing stewardship of what is unfolding for us. Because with that unfolding of getting people involved, there's also an unfolding for yourself as you come to really appreciate who you are. there's more insights come for you as well because of this engagement with others. The question I have for you now is, who am I inviting into my legacy, and how am I making space for their voice? Now, by inviting them in, you're saying, here's a place for us to interact, but the space is allowing what's even in behind that to be able to unfurl in a way that's caring and supports everyone that's involved. So what's happening here, you could say there's a co-creation. Now, you can extend it, say there's eco-creation when you include your wild kin. So, co-creation is your kin, family, friends, those you invite in, and then eco-create is with the wild kin as well. And I bring that up is because I'm very interested in nature-inspired legacy contributions and projects. And I'll be sharing more about that as time goes by. And being able to really appreciate, and I would say in a sort of a funny way here, is engage with my wild kin. Now, for me, that's through observation and listening to what's going on and just watching for patterns or insights or metaphors, because nature is like a muse for me. And I can then relate that through my legacy stories that I'm telling and sharing. So a quick connection with D around direction, moving forward, is that from an engagement point of view, it gives the people to the directional plan. So inviting those who are going to assist, they could be the supporters and contributors, but also the recipients, those who will benefit from the legacy itself as it unfolds. Design forward, direct forward, then what's happening is that you're connecting outward. Kind of an interesting way of playing with the words there. But think that through. So you're designing forward, yes, but you're connecting outward. And so what happens is that the D that you're coming up with, until you put it in action, is still a concept. But engaging with others, then it starts to become a practice. Because nature is like inspiration for every breath. So understand where I'm coming from using this metaphor, is that this legacy that you're attempting to bring forward breathes collectively. When you engage with others and enfold them in what it is you're doing, there's a sort of breathing collectively that takes place. So let me give you an example here of what I mean about breathing collectively. A community builder, someone really interested in community, is getting together with local artists to explore how their artwork in whatever form can actually be brought into the community. How would they interact with one another, interact with the community to bring the beauty of the art forward? And especially from an intergenerational point of view, how to mix up the different generations in the creation of this artwork. Now, for some, they might go, nah, I don't want to deal with that kind of art form, or I don't want to deal with that kind of art form. That's the collective breathing together and finding ways in which to encourage that engagement. There's a chap that I had a conversation with. He's a retired engineer. And what he's done is he started a mentorship program. He was in the trades and then became an engineer, but came back to the trades and actually working with his hands. And he said one of the greatest joys he's had is engaging with the younger tradesperson to give them a sense of innovation. And what it means is from a creativity coming into an idea, and then what do you do with that idea? That's the innovation aspect of it. But doing it through a lens of empathy, really saying, okay, if we're going to take these steps, what does that mean for a wider audience, for the community? And I thought that that was a really beautiful way in which to frame up the engagement that he's there. Yes, he was mentoring, but there was an empathy that went with it. There was an innovation that went with it. And I'm hoping to follow up with him a little bit more about how things are going. And he also mentioned, which I thought was wonderful, he said, I continue to learn. With these interactions, as much as I'm working with the mentee, that mentee actually becomes a mentor of mine. I went, oh, yes, so true. Something I've talked about for many years about the mentor and mentee relationship, and he expressed it in this really beautiful way. Engagement is also, in summary, an exchange of commitment and courage, understanding it. Commitment in the sense of, I will fulfill what I say I'm going to do. I'm going to keep my promises, and I'm going to have the courage to be able to do that, even when things might get a little bumpy. My engagement, I'm going to commit. I'm going to bring that courage forward with you, because of you, for you, which means I'm going to listen deeply to what's happening in our exchanges. As we engage, I'm going to listen. What's there? What's the words? What do they mean? What do I need to clarify to be able to move us all forward? What do you need to learn to be able to move us all forward? Let this collective engagement happen, and let it be collaborative. And most important, to keep learning, keep gifting, to keep finding ways in which to ripple out the stories of legacy and these contributions, these projects. I thought this was a really wonderful way of looking at engagement and enfolding, or engaging and enfolding. Engaging is really about reciprocity. Enfolding is about intergenerational caring. And this was shared with me when I was doing some research on living a legacy life and what would persons say they need to learn more about. And a person shared this as a comment. And it sort of stopped me in my tracks. And when we spent about the next 10 minutes just having a conversation about this sense of reciprocity and intergenerational caring. And I've always had it in the background around this E aspect of the letter. But when they said these words and we then had that conversation, it really strengthened for me, how do I improve and focus that in my connections with others? And I would offer to you in terms of, how are you going to be doing it? And if you have some insights about that, drop in the comments down below. Now, okay, what follows? Guess what? F, which is about feed forward, about flow. Now, feed forward is a term that I tend to use a little bit more than feedback, and I'll explain why. I have actually another term, feed fromward, that I'll share with you when we get into that video as well. So that's where we're going next time. Now, what's popping up for you right now are videos that I believe will be of value to you, especially the playlist of the shorts. Grab your journal, listen to them, get little prompts, thoughts that might be of assistance to you, and you can provide comments on those shorts videos. And always and in all ways, take care.